today we have a very special guest, a very fabulous guest, because not only is she an awesome real estate investor, but she's been a good close friend of mine for many years, and that is Stacy Conkey. Stacy is the co-founder of Warriors of Wealth with her partner Jen Conkey, and they have helped over 10,000 people generate wealth through multiple industries. They guide people through real estate investing, scaling people's businesses, and helping them climb the corporate ladder, but also helping people remove limiting beliefs. And they help people get real results from supercharging any specific area of their life. And they are fantastic at doing this. I met Stacy actually 10 years ago, and we've stayed connected over the years. And what I find truly intriguing about Stacy is that she has built her business in a very specific way that she can do it from anywhere. And I wanted to get Stacy on the podcast show so that you could learn about these type of opportunities and our methods that are available to any of our audience and aspiring investors who want to duplicate this model into remote real estate investing. So with that said, Stacy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you, Nathan?
I'm staying alive because,
Yay!
I have to say,
it's a great first step.
I know, right? It's just, it's crazy. It's interesting how much this has affected people. And I know we were just talking about this, but I know it's affected people in so many different ways, family and friends, how they're like, Nathan, I know you've been doing this remotely for so many years, but, can you give me some tips and pointers? But for us, it's kind of been, remote work has been, how long have you been doing remote work? Yeah. How long has it been for you?
Since 2003. So 17 years.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was lucky in that one of my first mentors is I believe in investing in your education. So I did that when I was new in 2003. And luckily, I probably had 4 or 5 different instructors in the program I was in. And one of them was this Canadian guy, and he basically invested in the US from Canada. And so he just really opened my mind to the possibility of being able to invest somewhere that your physical body isn't. But every other instructor I had talked to was like, oh, you got to stay within 50 miles.
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
And that was a hard thing to do where I lived in a really competitive market at the time. So I was really grateful that I came across that one mentor who showed me that's not true anymore. We live in a digital age. You don't have to be stuck at home and invest where you live, because sometimes where you live doesn't make any sense.
Now that's very true. So how long ago was that? Because I'm sure technology was very different then, right?
It was in 2003, and we had cell phones were a thing. I don't know that I had a smartphone yet. I don't think that was till like 2005, but I had cell phone. Internet was definitely like up and running. So it wasn't like dial-up. It was faster than dial-up. I do remember I would listen to cassette tapes of my real estate training. There were CDs, but I was still listening to cassette tapes. So technology-wise, there was internet, but the resources now are just like blow that out of the water. And I was able to do it then. Just imagine, it's infinitely easier now. It is just, there's so many resources make it so easy now. So simple, not easy. That's easy. So true. Simple.
Yeah. Simple. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, we have so many tools and resources now that make it, I hate when I hear people, complain about, real estate in today's age, because it's like, wow, if you did it when I got started, you would have had a lot harder knocking on doors, it was just like, what? Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell us how you got started in real estate. Like, tell us maybe your background and before real estate, and then as you got into it.
Okay, so my background is in accounting. So I got a degree in accounting. I went and got a job at one of the big 6 accounting firms. I think there's only 4 now, but the one I got a job in was Arthur Andersen. So that doesn't exist anymore. I think so, the Enron. But I went and I got, so I worked in big 6 public accounting for 2 years. I got my CPA license, was an auditor, traveled all over. And then I went into the private sector and became a controller of a public company. And was doing that, started working on my MBA, and I got invited by my boss, the CEO of the company I was working with, to go to a Tony Robbins event. And I was like, give me that guy with the big teeth, that big goofy guy, those giant horse teeth. That's the only thing I knew of Tony Robbins. And now, like, the guy literally changed my entire life path. Wow. I hold him at a very high esteem, but back then I didn't know who he was. But
Yeah.
I went to that event, and the big message I got out of that was that I was just literally on the wrong path in life, career-wise. And I was like, that was mind-blowing, because I had already spent 7 years in school, 4 years in industry working, and I was heading to the CFO position. That's what I was going for.
Wow.
And I just realized I was supposed to do something else.
So so you attended the Tony Robbins event, and I'm glad we have that in common, by the way. You attended the Tony Robbins event, and then you started, I mean, was it straight from the event into real estate, or how did real estate happen?
So the only thing I knew when I left the event is that I wasn't on the right path, but I didn't know what that even meant. I had no idea. So I just was kind of stepped one foot in front of the other. I ended up going to their financial mastery, something like that. Yeah. And it was like 4 really long days. There was like one speaker for an hour and a half out of the entire 4 days that was on real estate. And I was like, hook, line, sinker. I was like, that is it. She talked about buying a fourplex and getting passive cash flow. And I was like, that makes so much sense to me. And it just resonated hard. And I went home, and although I tried to do all the stock stuff I learned, I wasn't interested or passionate. And so I started joining investor clubs and just learning what I could. And then I ended up coming across like a seminar company, and went and made a big investment, got educated. It was a terrible education, but it was enough that I could get started and then learn from the real world. The rest.
That's another thing we have in common. I remember I did also make a big investment into my education, and it wasn't the best education. I mean, I think I got all these seminars, but did no deals in 2 years until this real estate coach flew to my area, kicked me in the butt, helped me make offers, and then, it became a reality. Thank God. I mean, if it wasn't, so I can't say it was a complete wash, but I'll tell you what, it definitely gave me the confidence that I needed to take that step into real estate investing.
I did not know that about you.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you had a mentor come and fly to you. That's funny.
Yeah, I went to a big stadium, right? And they pitched this program for like a 3-day for $97. And can you believe it? My ex-fiance at the time was like, go. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go. And I had the money. And I had the money, but she's like, fine, I'm going to buy it. And I'm like, no, you're not. I'll buy it. So I went, I paid the $97. I went for the 3 days, and I'll tell you what, I was like all in. And unfortunately, the 2 years of going to seminars and still working jobs in between wasn't a really good model. And the education was just fair. But when the coach came out and pushed me to make 11 offers, I got 4 accepted, closed on 2. That was it. That was when it became a reality. But so when you got started in real estate, though, because I started in single families and wholesaling, what did you get started in when you started the business?
So probably similar to you, the education I got was very broad. So I had a lot of different boot camps, and that's actually a model I don't care for, and as an educator, right. I don't like it because it's very hard to actually do anything when you just keep getting peppered with new information. But I didn't know any different. So at the time, the first deal I did was a fix and flip. And then the next 2 were ones where I had to do some renovation, but then they were just buy and hold rentals. Then I fairly shortly got into like doing the BRRRR strategy and refinancing my money back out. I did pre-construction, new construction, and then just a lot of rentals and flips. I almost always did renovation though. Renovation's been something that's always been in my one of my main strategies. Sure. Because I like to get the forced appreciation. But I just I did a little bit of everything. I did some wholesaling, some lease options. I did everything.
Yeah, you've done. I know you've done a lot. I remember when we first met, and it was in San Diego. I think. Yeah, it was in San Diego. Well, that wasn't the first time we met, but there was a time in San Diego. Yeah, we met in Boston, but there was a time we met in San Diego where I remember all these papers were on your desk on your kitchen table, and I was like, what is going on? She's like, oh yeah, I'm just flipping like this apartment complex or something like that. And I'm like, what? Like you're doing some bigger stuff. And I was just like, wow, that's really cool. So tell me a little about, I know you've got a lot going on. I'd love to kind of get like fast forward what's been happening recently in the strategies you're doing in real estate, especially with, a lot of people right now a little concerned or wondering what's going to happen with the market, but what's been happening recently for you?
Yeah, so as far as, so I'm going to talk broader than just me, because there's more going on than what any single transaction Jennifer and I are working on at any time. But so I'm going to speak more broadly, and then I will speak to what our specific thing. So the people that we work with who are newer in real estate, because a lot of people that I work with are new, or they're trying to scale. The main advice I've given them for right now is, look, it's going to be very difficult to time the market, but the one thing I can tell you is going to be probably a dangerous move to make is doing like a regular retail fix and flip. And we do that strategy, but I was like, here's the deal right now. And I know that your listeners probably aren't even focused on that, but it does make a good point. Right now, when you are going to resell a property, you have to begin with the end in mind before you write the offer, right? You got to know what it's going to sell for. And usually you look at the past 3 months, maybe 6. I tend to look at just 3 months to be able to predict what my house is going to sell for after it's renovated in 2 months from now. I can't look at the past 3 months and say that 3 months from now it's going to be worth that. I can't look at a sale yesterday and say in 3 months it'll be worth that. I have no idea. It might be worth that. It might be worth more, and it might be worth way less. We don't know. So there's a really big level of uncertainty around retail resale prices. So what I've advised everybody that I'm working with is, if you're not already in a deal, just don't go forward with that strategy. You can make money so many other ways, focusing on passive income, whether it's you're buying your own passive income real estate, or you're renovating it and then putting tenants in there, refinancing it, or you're wholesaling a rental property to someone else that wants the thing, or you're buying, renovating, putting a renter, and then selling it as a performing cash flow property. Like there's a lot of ways to make money. Don't do the retail, because the retail is the big component, that big question mark, because we don't know what's going to happen with the economy. And frankly, with rentals, if prices go up and down, I don't give a crap. Like, who cares? I'm just holding it for cash flow. I don't care if the price goes up and down, because I'm just holding it. It's a long-term play.
Right. So would you say that the majority of the stuff that you've been investing in, or that you tell your clients to invest in, is more passive cash flow? Is that more of what you're doing these days?
Right now, yeah. And for the past 5 years, up until November, I didn't know you had a one-on-one trainer. I just laughed, because that's what I've been doing for 5 years. I would fly to someone's home. I basically kicked their ass for 3 days, and they'd have 11 offers out by the time I left. That's literally what I did as far as a trainer. And so, Jennifer and I have 4 kids. And so it's just me traveling all the time. As they're getting older, we have 3 8-year-olds and a 6-year-old. It was just becoming a strain on our family. So we made the decision to just shift our business model. And I just didn't feel like economically, even without COVID, I didn't feel economically that it was smart to start a training organization based on fix and flip, because the market has been too good for too long. And I felt like it's probably going to soften, and rentals just make way more sense during a time where real estate's not crazy. So, and I've always had a passion anyway for that, in apartment buildings. And that's my thing.
And you know what? I was thinking about this probably a few weeks ago I remember some of these conversations. However, I think you guys made such a smart decision, because there was a time where, in a conversation where you said, are we going to build go into the seminars and teach people an events? Now the event business is in the toilet.
Yes.
Like, it's completely gone. And so it's like you guys saw it coming. You guys have intuition, and you saw it coming even before people knew it was going to happen. So that's just intuition. And that's what makes you a great, business person, because you can sense that and you can see it coming. So that's really
I went through 2008 and 2009. When you go through something like that, you have PTSD for the rest of your life. And there's certain things that you just pay closer attention to, because you never want to go through something like that again. And that's been the case. So I've been it took a while before I was willing to get back into rentals. It was Jennifer pushing me and pushing, like, we got to start doing passive cash flow. And I was like, oh, I'm nervous because 08, 09. And I'm like, oh. But she's like, well, what did you do then that to do differently? I'm like, okay, that's a good point. So we started making that shift. But I think I pay very close attention to the intuition now because it's just in me. Like, I don't ever want to be caught off guard again. And Jen's really super strategic in general in everything. So she just by nature pays attention to that stuff. And me, I'm out of, I don't have that happen again. So we already had adjusted. We stopped flipping. Our last flip was probably last summer. And we were like, we're just going to stop flipping for a while. We'll just focus on passive income and doing stuff there. And then, we'll just see what happens to the market.
Let's talk a little bit more about the passive real estate model. And I'd like to dive a little deeper, as in this model that you teach. Is it mostly like single families? Is it multis? I mean, I've known you for a long time about multis, but can you dive a little bit into more of like the specific property type as well as maybe pros and cons to it?
Oh, absolutely. So in general, when I'm teaching someone, it always starts with what are their goals and aspirations. It's really difficult for, no matter what they say their goal or aspiration is, if the conversation is around building a portfolio, it's very difficult for me to say, go buy single family homes in your as your main thing, mainly because they don't cash flow that well, but they're really great for equity. So generally speaking, I'm either talking to someone who is really new and they're just like, you know what, I want to get started with multifamily. And what they mean is like small, 2, 3, 4 units, like residential. Okay. So that's a lot of people are in that space. And then I have another group of people who are like, you know what, either they've already been doing that and they want to step it up and scale to getting into apartment buildings, or they just want to go right to apartment buildings. Usually there's like the stepping stones. They usually go 2 to 4 units and do a handful of those and just learn the business first before they jump to apartments. But every once in a while, someone's like, apartments just make sense. So I work with both, and both of them are great. It really has everything to do with the person, because I don't feel right about taking just someone who's brand new in real estate and throwing them right into a 20-unit building unless that's their desire from jump. I'd rather them learn the business on the smaller stuff that isn't as much as they grow into it. But I listen to the needs of who I'm talking to, what their goals are, and then we establish a plan that they're excited about, and then we basically help them through that, through the education process and through the doing.
Yeah. So when it comes to this, setting up a passive real estate model, so you're basically, I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. You're basically analyzing the client's needs, where they're at in their life and in their business and where they're going. Yeah. And then kind of say, okay, here are the options, right? So it's more of a strategic approach. And their resources,
because that will make an impact. Someone who has, $15,000 to invest and they don't want to go do fundraising, we can't go do apartment buildings, but they could get into a duplex in Indianapolis, like a fixer duplex, and do like the BRRRR strategy with 15 or 20,000 available. Right. But then there's someone who might have, 6 figures and they're like, I'm good to go. Then, it depends on what market they want to invest in, but it really depends on, and sometimes even when people have a lot of capital, their personality is going to drive whether we go right for the big stuff, because maybe they're like, I don't want to waste my time with little duplexes, not interested. Or someone else is like, oh, I absolutely don't want to jump right into 20 units. I want to start with the small stuff and learn it. It's really a personality thing plus financial resources, or what they're willing to do to make the financial resources happen.
That's a good point. Do you take them through like an analysis or something? Like years ago, and even today, some of my clients, I have them go through a Colby test. I mean, do you have like a system or a consultation that you do with people to find that out for them?
It's not a specific test. It's really just a conversation. I mean, I've been doing real estate for 17 years, and I've been training people for 9. And so part of it is just, I have a very deep intuitive understanding of the student or the new investor's experience and what it's like to be that person, because I was that person and it was very, very hard. And part of why I teach today is because to me, it was so much more difficult than it needed to be, because the education wasn't laid out in a logical sequence that built upon, and that forced me to take one step before I learned the next one. And so I became very passionate about going back and making it an easier path for other people. So I just get on like a Zoom call like this with someone who's going to be, coaching, and I'll just ask a lot of questions until I really feel like I have a solid understanding of what are they trying to accomplish, what are their timelines, what are their resources, and also what their willingness is as far as how much do they want to work. They want to put in 3 hours a week, or they want to put in 15 hours a week. And then we will basically create a plan together. Everything I have buy off with them to make sure they want it. And then we go to work and put it into play.
What if someone doesn't have a lot of capital? I know some of our listeners and some people who are just getting started into real estate, they're looking at the market and they're, oh my gosh, I don't want to deal with the volatility and especially what's going on right now. What if someone doesn't have a lot of capital to get started in real estate? What would you suggest to someone like that?
So a couple things. One, if you're saying like, let's just say no capital, because that's almost an easier conversation to have. Let's say that someone has no capital of their own, but they really want to invest. Frankly, when I started, that was me. I didn't have capital to invest, but boy, I wanted it. So I had extremely high drive. So for me, what I ended up doing was, because I was learning and I was educated, I could definitely speak the language. As I went to investor clubs and was networking with other investors, and these days we even have social media, so it's even broader. But as I was networking and talking to other people, I found that there were a lot of people who wanted to invest, and they actually had capital and credit, but they did not know how to invest. And they weren't going to go spend the time or invest in themselves to learn how to do it. So they were going to always stay in one. They're going to go to their investor club once a month, spend their $20, learn, 3 seconds of content, and think eventually they'll do a deal. And they never, ever will, because they never have enough information. They don't have enough knowledge. So I basically became like a stopgap. I would talk to them and I'd say, well, I'm looking for a partner, or I'm looking for a private lender so that I can do this deal. I'll show you what I'm doing. And I meant it at the time. I'm a natural teacher at heart, and I was 100% sincere. And everybody that I ended up working with was like, yeah, I really want to learn. So yeah, I'll fund your deal. I still paid them interest like normal. Yeah. But, and they're like, yeah, and then I'll learn from you. I'm like, okay. I've never had a single person actually take me up on the learning part. It's like once they're getting their 8, 10, or 12%, they're just like, they're busy with their life. So if someone doesn't have any funds, but they have the desire, then my advice is go get yourself educated so that you can actually be the one to do the deals. And then the money part doesn't have to be a big deal. That's you finding somebody who wants to know how to do what you know how to do, but maybe doesn't have the time or is not going to take the time to learn it. And you guys come together and you both do the deal together, and you have what you need. And then you do that a few times, you build up your own capital, and then you don't need to do that. The other thing is they could do wholesaling. Yeah. That would be another thing that someone could do if they're new or don't have funds.
You bring up a good point though, but when you're talking about wholesaling, are you specifically telling people wholesaling like single family or multifamily, or what would you choose for that for like today's market?
Well, for today's market, frankly, I would choose multifamily. So and it's funny because we actually just launched our wholesale course this week, Monday. So 5 days ago, we just launched it. And the big thing that I'm telling our students is, look, this is not your conventional wholesale course, because there's like 3,000 of them out there, and they all teach the exact same thing. I'm going to teach you what Jennifer and I do. I've never taught anyone wholesale before. We just kept that kind of in-house. The thing that we do differently that I am trying to raise people's awareness of is, look, if you want to wholesale, really what you're looking to do is you're looking to combine a property with a buyer. A buyer that doesn't know about the property wouldn't know about the property. And when you know how to invest remotely and you know how to build relationships with realtors, you don't have to do door knocking, skip tracing, sending out letters, like all the traditional conventional things. You don't need to do that. You need to be a good relationship builder. You build a relationship with the realtors. They send you leads. Sometimes they're on market, sometimes they're off market. You combine that deal with your buyer who might live in California or New York or somewhere where cash flow doesn't make sense. And now you have something of value. So you don't even have to go do the traditional find the motivated seller who's going through a divorce. That, you know, that's so many people trying to do the same thing, and people get frustrated and they quit, and there's no need to. They just need to adjust to realizing it doesn't have to be wholesaling can mean a broader thing than what most people are doing. So so for me, I say 2 to 4 units is probably going to be the easiest thing to wholesale if you're looking for investors who are looking for cash flow, which is what I'm teaching my students. You can look for people who want to flip, but right now, not ideal.
When you're, in regards to that, if someone's flipping like a 2-family or a 4-family, are they flipping it with tenants inside, or, you know, occupied or unoccupied?
Yeah, so that I would consider, I don't even know that this is a real thing, but I did a master class about a month or 2 ago, and I called it the BRRS, just because it was a play on BRRR, but it was buy, renovate, rent, and sell. Also called investor flip. That's what I've always called it, investor flip. So the whole idea of the investor flip is you put tenants in there, you get professional management, you make it 100% turnkey. You give your buyer the insurance contact, the property manager's already in place, like everything, the utilities are already established and done, or you have all the contact information. You make it so easy for them that if they want cash flow, all they're going to say is yes, and then, hey, can you get me another one? So it's really about the experience that you bring and just being awesome, so they want to come back to you or send their friends.
Yeah, and that buyer, though, just to make it clear to our audience, though, can you explain more about that end buyer? So after you're, you know, buying it, renovating it, occupying it, who's the end buyer typically for that type of property?
All right, so typically the end buyer is someone who, like, you don't have to convince them that real estate is the way to wealth. They already know that. So they know that, but they are not educated on how to actually do it. They know they want it, but they don't know how to do it. So if you can clear out all of the question marks for them, like, look, the property's already been renovated, if it was, it already has tenants, it's already bringing in this much rent, here's the property taxes, here's the insurance, because it's all in place, here's the property management, it's all done. All you have to do is go get a loan, and by the way, here's 5 lenders that you can choose from. Making it so easy, you know, you're going to put down.
It's done for the buyer. It's done for you for the buyer.
Yeah. So it's not someone who, the end buyer is not someone who's like a student of real estate education, as we were. Like, I wasn't going to go buy something from someone who they already did all the work. I wanted to be the one to do the work. But, you know, my neighbor who worked at whatever corporation, worked 70 hours a week, he was like, oh man, I really wish I could get into rental real estate. That's just, but I don't have any time. I have no idea how to do it. I don't have time. That's a perfect buyer. And they're all around. It's not like people always say, oh, you're the doctors and lawyers. Doctors, lawyers, it's the guy who works at the grocery store too. It's anybody who wants to have an asset in their portfolio so that when they go to retire, they are not relying on the government to hopefully have managed their Social Security properly, or their employer to have managed their 401k properly, or their pension. Just gives you more control, more security. So that's a great point. And by the way, I know people are going to wonder, do you direct people to these types of properties? Do you have these properties? Like, if someone was listening to this and they're like, well, I would like that, how do I get my hands on one of those properties? Possibly. What I would probably more likely do in a case like that is just bring them into our network and just be like, oh, hey, like, I know Natasha right now in our mastermind is wholesaling 6 properties, and 4 of them are duplexes and a couple single families. Let me make an introduction. So it just depends. Like, if we are actively doing the investor flip strategy, then we would sell our own. I did recently connect a contact that I had in Indianapolis who had a single family, but it was already rented and it was totally renovated. And I wasn't looking to buy that, but somebody in my group was. So I just made an introduction, and then he moved forward on it, and he stepped into cash flow on day one and was thrilled about it.
That's really good. Tell us a little bit more about your network, though. And I do have a follow-up question to the network part, but tell us a little bit about your network, your community that you have. I know people are just probably curious as much as I am about what you're sharing.
Oh, sure. So Jennifer and I wanted to create a community of investors, both new and experienced, where people could come and collaborate, where we could provide value, free education. If someone wanted to have coaching, we wanted to give so much value that if they say, I want to take it to the next level, that they would naturally ask us. That's what we wanted to foster. And we wanted to foster a place where people could be doing deals together, on their own, but in a thing. So we chose to use Facebook groups because that seems to be where most people spend their time right now. So we started our group in November of 2019, and it's called Remote Passive Income Real Estate Investing. And I think we're at 2,200 people. I think we're around 2,200 people, or almost.
That's great. That's
awesome. And we're very actively growing it, and it's become this just great community of people. And we do right now. We just do a lot of educating because we have a lot of new people in there, and then people who are more experienced will sometimes comment to help someone who's new has a question. But that's really it. We really want to grow that community so it becomes like the go-to place for people who are interested in building passive income, but doing it remotely, because that's the thing that's unusual.
Right. Now, is this where I'm hearing always about the 14-day challenge? I mean, I know you're active on Facebook. Both of you guys are active on Facebook, but tell me about what's all this rave and news about this 14-day challenge. I'd love to hear more about that. I know other people would too.
Sure. Well, it's funny because when Jennifer and I started, made the decision to start this, and it's so funny because you were involved in all these conversations before we even knew what we were going to do. I remember talking to you. I'm like, I can feel the winds of change are about to blow, but I don't know even what that means. But I know you keep popping in my head, so we're going to have a conversation. But so we ended up creating what we called the 14-day challenge before we even knew we were going to do a Facebook group. We didn't know what we were going to do with it, but basically it's kind of like a course. I call it a challenge, but basically it's a course that breaks down over 14 days. Like every day is a video on the next step in the process. So it starts off with knowing your why, doing market analysis, and then going deep into market analysis and building your team and lead generation and rehabbing, and just like it's every step along the way, actually up through making your first offer. So it's called the 14-day challenge to making your first offer. So that's so it's really up until the first offer, but it gets people. Because the whole thing is, I tell people in the videos, like, look, don't just watch these videos and be like, oh, that was really interesting. Don't waste time and I already recorded it, but don't waste your time. If you're not going to go do it, don't bother watching the video, because this is intended to get you into action. And once you're in action, once the momentum is going, it is so much easier to keep it going. So the 14-day challenge gets people into action, like researching markets, making a decision, starting to reach out and talk to build a team. And once they get the momentum, they start getting confident, and then it just starts rolling from there. So
then that's really good, because I think a lot of people get stuck on, I think back to my past, got stuck on making that first offer. My biggest fear at that time was, what happens if they say yes? What happens if that seller says yes to my offer? Then what then, right? So I know that over the years of being in this industry, that a lot of people get stuck on that part of, getting to the offer. Is it right? Am I doing it correctly? Are my numbers, did I run the calculations correctly? And that plays a big part in people's, hesitation to getting that. So you're saying when they go through this entire 14-day challenge, by the end of those 14 days, they should have made an offer.
Exactly. And it's funny because early on, we really haven't done very much promoting of it, but in the very beginning, when we started the group, a couple times I offered it for free. It's a $97 like challenge that we have out there right now that people can do. But in the very beginning of the Facebook page, I made it free to the Facebook members a couple of times, and a few people took me up on it. They went through it and ended up buying properties. Like one of them, he ended up enrolling in our mastermind. So he's actually in the mastermind. But within the first 3 weeks of our mastermind, he had closed on 2 properties, 3 units. And I was like, well, I mean, I know we haven't been in the mastermind long enough. So how did this start? When I interviewed him, he's like, started with your 14-day challenge. And I was like, seriously? He goes, yeah, I've been wanting to do this forever. And I kept spinning my wheels because I couldn't figure out where to start. And you just made it so easy. He's like, so it started with the 14-day challenge. And I was like, all right. And then a few other people started saying the same thing. And I was like, okay.
That's fantastic. You know, years ago, when I got started, I would have gladly paid, you know, to get from day 1 to day 14 and have offers. And I would have gladly paid $97 back then. It would have saved me from spending so much time and money on more seminars and more seminars and training that I spent, you know. So that's awesome. That is so good to hear.
Yeah. And it just, you know, the whole thing, when people are ready to actually start like buying it, that is a different level of education. And you do need more help because these are big purchases and you got to be careful. But sometimes there are people just, instead of being like, oh, I want to buy property, but it's so overwhelming. You know what? If you just start somewhere, do the one thing. Like the 14-day challenge is great because they can do the one thing today is market research. And maybe they don't do each day. Sometimes the 14-day challenge takes someone 3 weeks or maybe a month, and some people do it in 7 days. You know, they just do it really quick. But if you're doing the things along the way, you start getting like feeling like, you know what, this is doable, and it's only one step at a time. So it's not overwhelming. And so it allows people to succeed. And that was my whole goal in coming into educating in this space. Was I was tired of having and hearing of people making these huge investments in their education and they never did anything with it because it wasn't laid out in a way that they could, 1, consume it and understand it, but 2, take action on it. And so everything that I've done and that I do is about I'm going to teach you a little bit and then you take the action on a little bit. Then I'll teach you the next step and you take the next action on that. And that's why my students have such a very, very high level of success, is because I make them take action one step at a time.
That's really great. You brought up a good point, though, that I needed clarity on. So after the 14-day challenge, do they go from there to your master class? I mean, what help would someone get after the 14-day challenge?
Yeah, it's good. So the mastermind is fairly new. We launched it as a beta on February 4th, and we basically just finished the beta a couple of weeks ago at the end of March. And so now and the reason it was beta is because I was literally building out the course. Now the course has 133 pieces to it, like videos.
Wow.
But the mastermind it's made up of 2 things. One is this monster course. It's literally everything from A to Z, through choosing your market all the way through closing, renovating, refinancing, the property management, advertising. Like, it is literally A to Z remote passive income real estate investing. Like, that is all anyone would ever need. It's complete. But what comes with the mastermind and what makes probably a little more difference for people is that they get weekly coaching with me. So everybody in the mastermind gets on a group Zoom once a week. And I'm not even there like to come and teach them stuff. The teaching is all done. It's all online. Okay, what are you working on this week, Steve? What about you, Bobby?
Accountability.
What about you, Natasha? It is, and it's just, it's accountability, and it's where they can say, you know, I was talking to this one agent and they brought up blah, blah, blah. And I kind of got stuck, and I'm like, okay, so let's talk about that. So I'll find learning opportunities that are coming up while my students are taking action every week, and they're moving forward in it. So we had Bobby's working on closing a deal. Natasha has 6 under contract. Steve closed 2 and is working on closing 4 more. Tajane is making several offers. Like, we probably have 20 people in it. Not everybody comes every week, but we have a good number of people that are now deals.
That's awesome.
Because of it. But the fact that they have coaching is what makes them, or the weekly, they know they're going to have access to, makes them feel more comfortable that they're not going to get killed financially.
That's very powerful. That's very
It's
powerful.
fun. We really enjoy it. I didn't know the group dynamic would be so powerful, but I've always been a one-on-one person, well, the last 5 years. So I didn't know how it would be doing
Yeah.
the group. And it's
It's
so much
powerful,
better
huh?
for them because,
Wow.
what Steve is working on, maybe, Courtney isn't there yet, but she is learning so much because Steve's like, yeah, I was talking to the seller and he's trying to say this. He wants me to close on this date and then have the tenants move out a day after. And I'm like, oh, hell no,
Right.
absolutely not. And let me tell you why. And so everybody else in the mastermind
And they
is
learn from
learning.
each other. Yeah.
They're learning from their deals because I'm coaching people through, but in the group environment. And if they ever send
Right.
me like a one-on-one question, if they're a one-on-one client, that's different. But if someone in
Yeah.
the group and they send me a one-on-one question, I'm like, that's a great question. Put it in the group string because we have like a group text string in Messenger, so that
Okay.
if they need help in between, they can get some help.
Oh,
But
that's great.
yeah,
Wow.
it's pretty cool, and just everyone
That's
encourages
really,
each other, and yeah,
yeah.
it's good stuff.
That's really good. And you do have one-on-one help as well. Like, cause I know like some people
Yeah,
learn great in group and some people work better. Like me personally, I'm a one-on-one guy. Like
yeah,
I'm okay with groups just to listen. And then when I need
right.
something specific, yeah, I'm more,
Yeah, we do that both. We have the group, and then everybody that is in our one-on-one program also, they're mostly on the group calls because they like how much they learn from listening to other people. But when they have a
right.
deal and they don't want to wait till the next Tuesday, and then we can get on a call and I can look at their deal and
Yeah.
make the offer with them, get on the phone with their realtor. Like
Well,
that's a different level
true.
of help. But there's some people who choose to do that too. So yeah, we try
True.
to
Well,
make sure that everybody has the level of help that they feel that they need and that they're comfortable investing in to reach whatever goals that they have.
well, that's great. Well, this is fantastic. Stacy, this has been not only insightful but exciting. Gosh, I'm actually I'm so excited to hear how many more people have been going through the 14-day challenge being successful. I've been seeing a lot of like people getting deals. I watch your live Facebook live
Oh
sometimes.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, that's so cool, and it's really great to hear that success. Now, at the end of every show, what we like to do is we like to get to know a little bit more you and our guests and how you tick. So I got 3 questions for you. All
Sure.
right.
Okay.
The first one is we want to know, what is your biggest fear? And
Oh.
by the way, it could be, let me tell you something. It could be current fear. Like I'll give you an example. My biggest fear right now is my 11-month-old son is climbing on top of tables and I'm afraid he's going to fall. Like that's a big fear right now. So
Well,
could be
I would have
current, could be
said,
past.
as of like a couple weeks ago, I would have said my biggest fear is that the schools are going to remain shut down and that the kids are still going to be at home until next fall. But that fear's been realized and the kids will be home until the fall. So my biggest fear, that one's already come into play.
Yeah.
I think the other one, probably just the real challenge that probably every business owner has is, trying to figure out how to balance being a business owner and having business aspirations. I swear I just need to have more hours in the day. My aspirations are bigger than the time that I have. And, I waited until I was 37. Same with Jennifer. We waited until we were 37 years old before we had kids because we're career people. And, and now that we have kids, it adds such a deep and incredibly important component to our life. And we take the responsibility for how they're raised. So like, it's so important that so it's the challenge of how do we give everything that we want to give to our business, but still give everything that we need to give to our kids. So that's just something that we're working, and especially now that they're home all the time, like we're getting especially more opportunity, and there's no extracurricular activities, there's no baseball. So we actually have more time with them, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but I think that's probably the biggest fear is, what if I screw up my kids because I didn't, do something right, which I know has nothing to do with real estate, but.
No, but it's definitely a mother's heart, though. It's a mother's love and a mother's heart. I think even, growing up being homeschooled, I was in private school and homeschooled. I remember one of my mom's biggest concerns was always about, did I teach them well enough? And I think that's just a loving mother's heart, All right, the next question I have for you is, what are you most proud of?
Oh man. We went through there's a lot of I could take that a lot of ways. I'm gonna do a business one in this case.
Okay.
So a couple of years ago, we went through the most unbelievably difficult time in our real estate business. Like I'm kind of a deal junkie, so I tend to when I go, we do acquisition. We go into acquisition mode. So we'll do a bunch and then we'll take a break and manage it. We'll do a bunch and manage it. Well, I'd taken on probably more than I should have, given I now have 4 kids. I didn't used to have kids, so I could do 12 or 13 deals. Who cares? But I was traveling 15 to 20 days a month, training other people. I have 4 kids. We had all these flips going on, and we were getting married. And so there was just, there was so much going on. And we had some delays with some of our rehabs, and they're all in the same market because the market all of a sudden got very saturated with investors. So we went through this very difficult time where we had to make some really hard decisions that I just wasn't sure were the right move. And so like Jennifer came back and she was focused on another part of her career, but she just stepped fully back into the business. And we had probably 3 or 4 months where we were like, man, are we going to be able to make it out of this? Because we just had made it was a combination of a couple of errors with a couple of, that's just some really bad freaking luck, about some contractors. But I think the thing that I'm most proud of is that we pulled out of that in such a very strong financial, we literally looked at it and went, well, we're going to either lose everything or we're going to have a multi-million-dollar portfolio. That's a really weird, big contrast, but we laid out all the different potential things that could happen. We had multiple different strategies based on how they would go. Thank God Jennifer was bringing her 22 years of like executive corporate leadership into being able to establish all those plans. But we came out of that because stuff like that could really rip a couple apart when it comes to financial stress.
Finances, financial stress. Absolutely.
And it did the absolute opposite for us.
Wow.
It just did the absolute opposite for us. We had to team up and use the highest level of our thinking and our savvy and our strategy and our risk taking to make decisions for our family of 6 and hope to God it worked. And it was such a brutal time, but we made it, and we made it out very, very strong. But for a while we just didn't know. So I think that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is that we went through that and didn't let the stress of the financial situation break apart us, our family. In fact, just did the exact opposite. And I'm proud of that for us and our family, because it was a very trying situation. But now, you know what? I know what we're made of. Yeah. I know what we're made of. People are like freaking out about COVID-19. Oh, and the business is going to slow down. I'm like, it might, but you know what? I already know. It doesn't matter. You could literally take everything away from me. Right. I could just do it again. Wow. So, but that level of confidence comes from when you go through something hard and you make it through. So that's why I think I'm most proud of it. And it's given me peace during a tumultuous time. True.
Okay, last question. That was so powerful, by the way. What was the most important lesson you've ever learned? Maybe the lesson was in there in the mix. I'm not sure. But what was the most important lesson you've ever learned? Or maybe more important lesson in real estate. How about that?
Yeah, so most important lesson in real estate actually came from 2008 and 2009. And that really was not to be over leveraged, because like one of my main strategies back then was, for the BRRRR strategy would be pull out 90%, renovate the property, pull out 90%, live on the cash. And then, so I had my whole portfolio built with this very tiny little margin, and I didn't have capital reserves. And I didn't know that. That was a big thing I tell people now, like, don't get into rentals if you don't have any reserves or you don't have a partner who has reserves, because they throw out the most random things sometimes that you don't expect. And so one of the biggest lessons for me, and that was the question Jennifer asked me that was so important to get us back into passive income investing was, well, what did you learn last time that you know not to do? And I was like, oh, it was don't get so highly leveraged. Don't pull out all of the equity and leave only 10%, because you're just not giving yourself enough wiggle room. So that's probably the biggest thing I've said is that I learned is be a little bit more conservative and slow down. Like, you don't need to go so fast. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Wow, that's
I've had
really
a lot of lessons.
Yeah. Well, speaking of lessons, Stacy, I don't know if you remember this, but I remember it. It's something I wanted to remind you. Some of the best advice you've ever given me was a number of years ago when I was in San Diego, and I had just come from an event. And after that event, it was just, we were at your condo.
I know, you were sitting with my cat Debbie on your lap. I literally can picture it like it was yesterday.
You remember this? Oh my gosh.
I totally do. I remember exactly. And you had you were wearing like a dress shirt because you had
was
been
wearing a dress
speaking or
shirt.
something.
I was like, I had just left from speaking and I was doing this whole training. And I'll never forget because I asked you, I said, Stacy, I don't get it. Because you knew I was like, I left that morning all excited, and I came back like super depressed. And you said, well, what's wrong? And I said, well, I don't understand. After every time I speak, people come up to me and they say, how old are you? How long you been doing this? And I was younger back then. Obviously I was younger back then, but I was so much younger and I looked a lot younger and all that stuff.
You looked like a kid.
Yeah, I looked like a kid, and I was doing a lot of real estate deals. And the reality is, when people come, I was so annoyed. And you know what you said to me? You said, well, it's all in the way you say your story. And you asked me, like, well, what do you typically tell people? And I said, I would tell them, I'm 21 years old or something. I would say my age in the mix because I thought that was something to be proud of. Like, I'm a young guy and all that stuff. And you said, no, instead of saying it that way, change it up and tell them how long you've been investing and never bring up your age.
Right.
And
they'll just assume you look young and you're not as young as you look.
Yeah, exactly. I'll never forget that, Stacy, and it's awesome advice.
I did not even remember that. I love that.
Remember that? Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, thank you so much. I would love for you to share with everyone any type of information where people can go find out about your 14-day challenge, or any way that people can get in touch with you. And if they like what they hear and they want to get connected with you, where can they go?
Yeah, so the Facebook page is where we kind of funnel everything. We have a YouTube channel, but I'd say the Facebook page is really the main place to come and just get involved in the community. And we have links to everything there, but it's the remote passive income real estate investing Facebook group, and you just click join and answer some questions. We'll let you in, and if you want to do the challenge, we haven't been marketing the challenge yet. Actually, we've only told a few people about it.
Yeah.
We did all this effort to put it together, and we haven't even marketed it yet. But the people who've taken it have loved it. So, awesome. But anyway, they just come to the page and just get to know us, and we'll see how we can help you.
Absolutely, and I'll put all that description. By the way, the link will be in the show notes, guys. You can check out the link there and get involved in the Facebook group. Stacy, thank you so much for coming in and doing this interview and helping and blessing with your knowledge and experience, but also inspiring a lot of people to take action in their real estate business. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it. And one other thing I just wanted to say is, if you guys end up coming over to our passive income group, just when the first question is, how did you hear about us? Please let me know that it's from Nathan. So that way, that way I know what our connection is. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, that would be great. All right. Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks, Nathan.